Hello, welcome to Studio Talks. My name's James Swift.
I'm Josh McNorton, and our guests today are...
I'm Rob Littler from VML.
And I'm Michael Carroll.
How are you doing?
Go on, over to you, Mike.
Yeah, I'm not too bad, just getting on with life, plodding along, coping with the lockdown.
Yeah, I mean, I've kept going despite, and I'm going to get some sympathy here, I know, but despite open heart surgery 4 weeks ago, I'm now on the mend, and I'm kind of, I've not stopped really. I've not stopped throughout. I was actually...
You really haven't, to be fair. I've noticed that.
I was even recruiting the anaesthetist who was singing to me as they were putting me out for the operation. And nurses singing, finding out which nurses could sing so they could come and join us.
That's good.
But in terms of everything else, how we're doing is, fortunately for VML, we're plodding along because we're a charity. People are still donating. We're not just totally reliant on performance funds. So we're getting some donations in, which is keeping us ticking over until the madness is over. And for the arts, God only knows when that'll be.
So with that in mind, do you have any advice for people who might be struggling throughout lockdown?
You see, the problem with this, I think it's gone on too long for many people, not just in the arts, but I think altogether, really. And I think it's now beginning to affect people's mental well-being. And as people know, VML in the whole community, we exist to provide outlets for people with depression, isolation. We do well-being sessions as well as performances, and we do children's groups. And I think that's the part that's worrying me. That's the part we've tried to keep going virtually. And it isn't easy because I know myself, I'm climbing the walls at the moment because I'm out there normally just doing things, and it's kind of like all our wings have been clipped. And I don't know what Mike's been, you've worked throughout the lockdown, haven't you, Mike?
Yeah, I'm working from home, so I'm basically locked in my room most of the week, staring at the same four walls, which drives anyone insane.
Yeah, I feel that.
That's what I was about to say. That's kind of what we've been doing, where it's essentially just been everything that you'd normally do work, do on a computer this time, and it is exactly that, where after a while you're like, can I go back to work now? Can I actually go to a physical building?
You miss the connections, don't you?
Yeah, it's most definitely
face connection that's kind of lacking in all this, really. I mean, Zoom's been brilliant. God help us without Zoom. We've been able to film like serial dramas on Zoom, and I've just had a bit of exciting news from somebody which I can tell you about later, but things like that, thank God for it, but it's getting a bit monotonous now. And poor Mike sits there staring at a computer all day, don't you?
Not much has changed, really.
I just watch telly all day. I'll play games, and it's the same games.
Scarily, I've gotten in. It's stopped now, thankfully, because I'm getting up into Father Brown at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which is quality drama. But you think I'm getting hooked on a daytime television program. That's what really the thing under the wedge. It could be worse. It could be Dickinson's Real Deal, in which case.
How did you two get involved in the studio?
You were involved before I was with him, Mike, in terms of knowing James and that.
Yeah, me and James used to we used to just like hover around the studio.
You're doing your that's the correct words.
I would just sort of turn up.
I think for me, years ago, before I formed VML, I was involved with a group called PMT, People Making Theatre, and they were commissioned by the Northern Writers Mick to do some plays, and they did some at the studio, and I did the lighting for that, and that was the first time I'd ever come across the studio, because I'm not from Holton, so I moved here 20 years ago, so I didn't know about Queen's Hall and the studio and all that sort of stuff. But for me, I think I got involved with the studio because of my admiration for Jackie Florrick and for Louise Nolte. I mean, Louise Nolte has completely the right ethos for me in terms of how you view art in the community, because there is nobody like Louise doing what she's doing at the moment, and Jackie Florrick, because obviously times are changing, and you need somebody looking out for the community in art. You really do. And she's just got her finger on the pulse. When the Brindley cancelled Vocalise over in Runcorn, and they cancelled it and I did the last Friday, and then I had a show at the studio. We hired the studio, and Louis said, "Come and bring it here with us." And I've never looked back. I feel like I've made a really decent family in the studio, a family of friends kind of thing. That I feel part of something even bigger than I felt at the Brindley. But also, I've met such decent people, and some
definitely.
good people, and some good people like and there's great people like Jane and yourselves and all that, but even people like Ethna Brown, who I would never have met without that connection to the studio. And because of Ethna Brown, I went to see Masquerade at the Royal Court last August, fell in love with the play, Fresh a Little Bit Play by Laura Lees, and got the rights to bring it to the studio in December. And that was all thanks to my connection with the studio. So I'm afraid the studio aren't getting rid of me anytime.
No, it's funny because we ask this question obviously a lot, and the main answer we get is because of Jackie and Lou, who are kind of the caretakers of keep making sure that the arts and creativeness stay around the studio and doesn't disappear anytime soon.
That's true of most groups. There has to be an anchor. There has to be
Definitely.
Every ship needs a captain kind of thing. And that's the analogy I use with VML. There are plenty of people capable of, if I suddenly pop my clogs tomorrow, who carry this on. But for some reason, we tend to latch onto that anchor. And I suppose it's an oxymoron to say it's that anchor that keeps us afloat. But you know what I mean? It's kind of, you need somebody who's steering you all in the right direction. I think somebody with a focus, and not blinkered eye, that kind of thing. And that's a great way of describing Lou.
So how did you get involved with theatre?
Started my sort of love for theatre in college. I took theatre studies sort of on a whim, to be honest with you. From the very first day, I just loved it. After college, I didn't really know where else to go with it. So I sort of drifted everywhere for a while until I eventually bumped into Rob. And from the first show that I was involved in with Rob, which was 6 weeks after meeting you, we done the sketch show. Midway through the sketch show, all the fear and everything of the first show, I was just like, you know what, no, this is everything that I want in life. I've not looked back since.
Except for COVID, of course. You see, I was I grew up, I was a child in the 70s kind of thing. So for me, there wasn't the kind of opportunity that there are these days in terms of performing arts. It was very elitist back then, even more so than now. And I think, so for some reason, I decided to do politics, to do A-level politics and then go to uni doing politics and ended up as a research assistant for a member of parliament. And it was then that I realised that I couldn't stop the ambition to want to be involved in the arts in some way. I wanted to be an actor, so I joined drama school and paid for my own passage through drama school while I was working for this member of parliament and whilst I was back and forth from London. But I also then did my music and I kind of progressed from there. And because my mother was a professional singer, there was a lot of performance in my family. I think it's just in my blood, really. I think once a show off, always a show off, really. And I think I always need, they say every singer needs a song and every actor needs a script, and it's true. The ambition's always been there for me. But the ambition now, as I'm getting older and decrepit, is for other people, is to make sure that, that other people who don't get the opportunities, like the kids at Vocalise and like the people in my... If you think about Masquerade, for example, which was fabulous, we did it for 2 nights at the studio last December. Most of the cast had not really, 2 of them had not really acted before on stage. And the woman playing the mother, who was phenomenal, Sue, she'd never done it before. And I just did one day and said, would you like to be the mother in Masquerade? And she said, why me? I said, because I think you can do it. And it's that sort of thing. And you give people a dream and the chance to live a dream. And that's what I love. The ambition's for others, not for me. I'm past it now, kind of thing.
Personally, I think that teaching someone is one of the best feelings you can have, especially if they go off and use it to do their own thing.
Watching them fly. And I think, so many kids have come through Vocalise and VML over the past 13 years, because we're 13 years old this month, VML. And so many kids have come through and I've watched them sort of go on to sort of seeing them flourish as well, because the art is great, whether it be music, dance, whatever fraction of genre of the arts, it's great for character building and it's great for confidence and team building and respect and all those sort of things, And I think the best way of teaching is to lead by example, I think, do you know what I mean? So that people learn from you by watching you organically rather than being told to do, because I had to do things myself. I can't follow, you see. I'm a gobby person sort of thing, so I just can't follow. I have to lead, and it's not that I'm arrogant, it's just that I get it wrong if somebody tells me what to do. But if I'm doing my way and she should tell people to do that and cope with that, that's the thing. And that's the beauty of teaching, really, because if you get the balance right, then young people are willing to listen and to follow what you ask them to do.
This question's for Mike. What made you interested in stage management?
I think part of it is I don't like stealing other people's limelight. It might come across as really big-headed, but I quite like being the unsung hero, sort of like helping other people to get to where they want to be. It's kind of like what Rob does, where he's taking people from backgrounds where they may not be able to come into the arts. I'm trying to take sort of like the pressure off them so that they can be their best self. I kind of like the fact as well I can just go in my own little bubble. I'm not having to worry about what everyone else around me is doing. I can just be like, right, this is my task. This is like my area. I know what I'm doing and I can just do it. And I don't have to worry about being or monitored or anything like that.
What would you say that your job entails doing as a stage manager?
I basically just do the tedious tasks more than anything, like the sorting out the props list. So every show that we've done since I've started, I've done the props list and sorted out the props table. So then we're never like an hour before the show going, oh God, we've not got this thing. Part of what the cast need to do, obviously the cast need to learn the lines. They need to know where they need to be, when they need to be there, when they're saying certain lines. So the last thing that they need is to have to think about, right, when I finish this, I need to take this piece of set and I need to move it over here and I need to grab this other piece of set and bring this on.
Can I just say, though, that Mike says the tedious things, those tedious things are absolutely the most important things, really. Couldn't function without that. Function. And he does it so well, and that's not just flannel, he really does. I know if you say to him, do us a prop list, you know it's going to be perfect. And also, he sits in on every rehearsal making notes, so if there's any modification on the scripts, or there's anything to add or take away, or any change in the blocking, for example, then Mike makes notes so that. And that's something that when you're directing or producing, it's the last thing you want to do is start doing that as well. So to have a stage manager doing that for you, it's just been the last few shows. I'm going to say the last few shows. You've done 5 shows with us, and these last 5 shows have been really a dream, just a dream, because we always knew that the things would be where they're meant to be. So he's a pivotal part of VML now, and he's stuck and he's never getting away.
So with that in mind, what is the origin of VML?
Well, it came about because my mum and dad were both disabled. My mum was severely disabled, and they both died very young. They both died a lot younger than I am. So there was never any money, but I always had this ambition for the arts. I used to write to sort of the telly and drama school and say, look, I want to be involved. And there was never anything coming back because it was different in them days. It was different in the 70s. So when I had kids myself, and Lexi showed a bit of a flair, my eldest, I just thought, what is that? And I remember doing this production where she had to pay I think she had to pay £180 to be in this show before she could actually do anything. And we paid it, but I thought, what about these families who have no money? What about these families of kids who the arts is the last thing on their mind? You know what I mean? So it began from that. It began then as an after-school group that I got some funding and took out into the community. And it was only then when I thought about it, I thought, well, there are adults in the same boat. Everybody has an ambition of some degree in the arts, I think. I think they either want to write, sing. Everybody, if you ask them, has a little story to tell there. And I think it's those people. That's the origins of VML, to pick up the people who are falling through the net because of means, income, disability, lack of ability, lack of experience. None of them should be a barrier to the arts, in my opinion.
How has VLM and the arts been affected by lockdown?
I mean, I haven't seen Mike face to face for months, which is really sad. Not really. No, but it's that really. It's kind of, I've done my utmost to try and keep us going. So we're doing Love and Lies in Lockdown, which is a stereo drama, 6-minute episode, which comes out every week. And I never know what's going to happen until I write it the following week. To try and keep those actors who want to keep acting, give them something to do. Similarly, I've been looking after the wellbeing side from here in terms of contacting people who come to our wellbeing sessions. We do twice weekly community sessions just for people to get together. They're like drop-ins at the charity performances any profit pays for. Just making sure that these isolated people are safe and that they've got things that they need. But the arts in general, now what's happening, and I'll let Mike come in as well. I don't want to steal all the time, but it's really worrying. And I see today on the news that the Manchester Royal Exchange, that they're making 65% of their permanent staff redundant. And that is a massive theatre in Manchester. But nobody's doing anything about it. It's like, and the arts generates probably more money than football in this country. You know, you say, oh yeah, your football's back and the pubs are opening. The theatres aren't. And pantomimes are starting now to be cancelled. And even singing's now banned at weddings. And they're saying it's going to be about 2 years before choirs are allowed to meet again physically. Yes. So there's this whole challenge for us. And in fact, one of the things I was saying is I've just hooked up with a French writer over in Avignon, who we've been doing read-throughs with a drama group every Tuesday night to keep those people who want to act, give them something to focus on. And we did 2 plays this week and last week by this French writer that had been translated plays. So I said to him, look, there are only 4 or 5 casts. I want to film these with VML's first act group. Sort of, we can film them socially distanced because of the cast size. Can we please have permission? How much will you charge us to film these and get them on YouTube so that we're keeping the drama alive? And he's given me exclusive right to do them too, as long as we credit him. Now, things like that, you can't buy that level of support, and I don't even know the writer. I just was cheeky enough to contact him. And it's good to do that, I think. And I think we're all having, and that's the big difference. And you'll know this from the studio, both of you, that we're having to think of ways to keep things going in a completely different way. We're all thinking outside the box now to just keep our groups and our industry going. Yeah, because whether it's the professional theatre or amateur theatre, community theatre, it's still one industry. We're all part of a whole. Right, Mike, have you got any ideas, mate?
I think you've covered everything, to be honest. It's quite scary that, like you're saying, the big theatre in Manchester having to lay off so many staff. Like smaller theatres, like the Brindley's not exactly a huge theatre, is it? So God knows what they're going to do. Like, even though they are getting funded by the council, obviously something's going to give eventually, aren't they?
I think also we were moving into Chester this year. We booked the Forum in Chester City Centre for a production of A Mice and Men, which was going to happen in October. And I was really excited that VML was going outside the borough. And unfortunately, that's gone by the wayside now. So who knows when that's going to happen. It's a really difficult time for us all.
What is your favourite show that you've worked on? And what shows are you looking forward to doing in the future?
I'm probably have to say the sketch show is definitely up there, because it was the first show that I was involved with VML. So it was very much the opening the door to this whole new world that I've only ever had the sort of surface glance at. So I think that's definitely going to be up there as one of the the best shows that I've ever been involved with. When I was involved with Frankenstein, I learned so much just being around these other people who were amazing actors. They sort of gave me advice, they gave me tips and guided me through that. So I think it's difficult to pick a favourite one that I've ever been involved with, but I think the sketch show is always going to sort of have a soft spot in my heart for the rest of my life.
See, I've got 3, and I'll quickly go through them. But you know what Mike said about being around these amazing actors. We do have some really, really good actors in VML now, but they're not actors as such. They've not had any formal training. They've grown through VML, and I'm proud of that, because they've learned their craft with VML. And if they want to go on to bigger and better things, that would be brilliant. Obviously I miss them, and they're with me for as long as they want to be. But my favourite shows, I think Masquerade is up there, because it was important to me. It spoke to me in a way that very little fresh drama has of recent years. And then because we did it, we also did it for Sahir House, which is a HIV charity in Liverpool. So we were able to they got 50% of the profit on the show that we did at the studio, which was good. So we made over £500 for Sahir House. The Crucible is up there that we did about 2 years ago. It was a play that I directed, and Adam Choate did some executive directing for me. That was something I always wanted to do. In drama was The Crucible, about the Salem witch hunt, and my daughter was in it and was brilliant in it, so that was up there. But the biggest thing I think I've done to date is the production of Our House at the Brindley, which was for a run of the Madness musical, and that cost, I remember, it was the worst year of my life. I was doing it to raise money for the charity, and it cost £12,000 to stage for 4 shows. Now, £12,000, when you try and just for 4 performances, and because you need live band, you need the scenery. We had a real car on stage, and I had all these people coming in from outside, because I cast them. As I cast it from, I didn't just stay within VML, I just cast it because it was a massive cast. Lots of them just came and went after the show, and it kind of put us on the map, I think. That was 5 years ago, and it was certainly the beginning of VML drama, because up till then I'd only really done stuff with the music. So it was a massive show, massive success, but I wouldn't want to do anything on that scale again. I would sooner just stick to 2 or 3 performances in smaller venues that you don't need a live band for, and you can do black box if you want, so there's not loads of scenery, because it's not worth the hassle. Because I think what the Crucible has proved, and what Masquerade has proved, because you were there at Masquerade, James, you saw the set. We utilised the desk from the studio, we had a bit of tinsel. It proved that you don't need massive sets. The acting should be the standout thing, and I think if you overdo sets in theatre, you overshadow the actors, particularly when you've got great character actors. And I mean, Masquerade moved people to tears in a way that we've not done so far, and it It was really good to see people crying. I know that sounds daft, but it's harder to make people cry, I think, than it is to make people laugh at times.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So I think they're the ones I'm proud of.
I know I'm answering my own question, but I really genuinely like Frankenstein. I thought that was really well done. And I haven't seen the full one, but I've seen when you did the theatre festival, was it last year? It was last year where it was, you did Mice and Men.
Yeah.
So good.
Brilliant actors, those two. Darren's the chairman. Darren Gibbons is the chairman of VML. But he's come to acting kind of after music. He got involved to do with music, and we cast him as Pressman, I think his name was. Yeah, Pressman in our house. And his acting ability as well as his singing was so good. He kind of fell into the acting. And the way he played Lenny, you would swear he was that character.
No, definitely.
What got you interested in music in relation to theatre?
Music, I've always liked singing. I'd love to be able to write songs. I wrote one, and it was so long ago, I've forgotten even. I know it was called Long Distance Love, which was a bit sugary sweet, but I mean, that's all I remember about it. I'd love to write songs. I would love to be able to write a song because I love ballads. And I mean, I love all kinds of music, really. But I think I've always wanted to be able to be a great singer, and we've got some great singers in VML. I mean, I'm okay. I'm all right at singing on. I might, you there, and I prefer swing genres than anything because it kind of lends itself to my voice. But it was that really wanting to write music, so I learned the piano myself and guitar and things like that. I still can't write a tune to say I can't. I don't know how you find that book. So when you're having songwriting workshops, I'm there at the studio, I tell you, because I need to learn. That's really what got, and the fact that I grew up with music, and my mum, as I say, was a professional singer before she got disabled. So there was always music in the house, and then I secretly had the desire to act. He's breaking up a bit.
It's like he's going for a bridge on the phone, isn't it?
Yeah. I think the internet's a little bit slow there, mate.
Do you know what, Josh? I was going to edit all this up, the interference out, but that's staying because that really...
Don't keep it in, yeah. Keep it in.
What inspired you to start Vocalise?
Vocalise itself, well, it was funny because I'd started Victoriamusicltd, and I went to a funding sort of a grant thing. I think it was in a Grangebury Community Centre in Rumford or something. And all people were there, like the music, at the time we had an arts development officer, music development officer, drama development officer, based at the Brindley for the council. And they were all there. And so there was this man who then immediately commissioned me. He was from West Bank Drama Group, commissioned me to do some voice work because they do a panto in West Bank. So I was employed by him to do that. It's worth going just for that because I met some great people. But then Claire Bigley was there, who was then the drama development officer, but also oversaw a lot of the other arts. And she said, "Oh, I'm all excited. I didn't know you were in this borough," and because I told her what I've been doing and we'd not met. And she said, "I would like to work with you." So she Vocalise was her baby. Claire Bigley completely was her baby. She said, "Let's just do blocks, 8-week blocks. Let's do," and I'll come up with the name. And she came up with the name Vocalise. But then I said, "But I don't just want to work with children now, I think." So we did. So she said, "Well, let's do an 8-week block for kids, and then an hour later, an 8-week block for adults." And kind of the adult VML kind of grew out of adult Vocalise then as well. So I have a lot to thank Claire Bigley for. She saw something in me before other people did, really, my capabilities, I guess, is what I'm saying. Because I'd not done anything in the borough. I mean, years ago, I'd acted in the Neptune and I played Billy Liar and I played Laertes and Hamlet. So I'd done my fair share as a younger man, but nobody knew me in Holton. I was just somebody's dad kind of thing. It was nice that somebody saw my potential and said, "Oh, let's work with you." And Vocalise went then from, I think that was 2010. So until like the tail end of 2018, it stayed at the Brindley for all that time. And in fact, we were the last class to be at the Brindley before most of the classes went. And that's when Louise picked us up. It's vastly different in the studio.
I genuinely didn't know that Vocalise. I keep saying Vocalise. Sorry, I said it wrong before, and I was like, just pretend I said it fine. I didn't know that it had been going longer than VML. I genuinely didn't know that.
Yeah, we'd actually, well, I mean, VML was going with kids, but the adult VML came about because of Vocalise. So we'd had done 3 years with the kids before Vocalise started, and
right, okay,
school groups and things like that. And the reason everyone thinks my mum was called Victoria or something. The reason it was called Victoriamusicltd is because I started at Victoria Road School in Runcorn. That is the only reason. And now we prefer the acronym VML because music tends to, it's all encompassing. If you say we're new Victorian music, then they forget we're drama and everything else. So VML is probably how we tend to refer to ourselves these days, and it's better from a grant point of view, and anything else officially, and it's all that sort of stuff. It works better to just use the initials, I suppose.
Mike, what do you think about Vocalise?
I'm not a very good singer, so I don't think I'll be a very good addition to Vocalise.
You've always like to play.
You're good at guitar.
He's never ever showed me him playing the guitar.
Do you know what? He's good. I would often ask him to teach me how to play stuff because I wouldn't know.
Oh, well,
and then he would show me up like a week later. And
well,
he'd
not really.
How important are the arts for people's well-being?
Mike, over to you.
It's incredibly important. I struggle with my mental health quite a lot, and it's helped me so much. When me and Rob first met, I was not in a good place whatsoever, and I'm a completely different person now because of the support that Rob's given me through the arts. It's given me an outlet that I genuinely didn't think I'd have. It's given me like the motivation and drive to keep moving forward, and it's challenging enough but not so challenging that it's daunting. And that's from obviously the inside, being involved in stuff like that, but even for audience members, just going out and watching a production, it's social enough. You're surrounded by other people, you're not just alone with your own thought. You're seeing sometimes comedies, dramas, whatever you're watching, and it's completely different. Like Blithe Spirit, every audience reaction when they were seeing the ghosts interacting with the set, every audience would all gasp because they didn't know how it was done, and it was a shock. And that sort of amazement would have them talking with people around them. I think it is really important to just have that, I'm going to say, community. So
it's like a fellowship in the arts. People think because you smile all the time that everything's fine. I've been almost bipolar all my life. I'm going to say almost. I have been, and I've been in really dark places. But music always lifts me out, and it's gratifying to know really that what you do can impact on people's mental well-being in a good way. And it's about respecting others really, and nobody talks about mental health. Everybody's sort of scared around. Everyone thinks, everyone wants to say, pull yourself out of it, snap out of it, the people worse off than you. At that moment, there aren't. When you're in that dark place, there is no one worse than you, and you can't verbalise that. I think to give people an outlet to sidetrack them almost, it's what it does for me, you see, it takes my mind away from whatever's getting me down, and I can focus on other people. And I think that's true of Mike. He was able to focus on shows that certainly brought you back to reality, shall we say?
Yeah, definitely.
I often use it as a method of saying the things that I not necessarily say out loud, if that makes sense.
The depth of feeling in music, they're the better songs. And I think, although I absolutely love him and admire Ed Sheeran, he can throw out these songs like this conveyor belt. And then you get somebody like Lewis Capaldi, for instance, who writes songs that you really feel from the heart,
No, definitely.
Most definitely, yeah.
Yeah, and it's come from somewhere really special. And it's that sort of thing, and that's, I think, where music has the power to make people better, I think.
This isn't so much a question. Actually, I mean, it is, because it starts with the word were. But it is a question, James. Where can people find you online?
We've got a Facebook group, which is Victoria Music Limited. We've got a YouTube channel, just search VML. Twitter is Victoriamusicltd, I believe.
Yeah, no D on the end. Victoriamusicltd is Twitter. An email, Victoriamusicltd, that's LTD, obviously shortened, @gmail.com.
Instagram as well.
Thank you for doing this. It's been absolutely brilliant. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you again. I'll see you later.
Catch you soon.
Thanks for having us.
See you. Bye, Mike.
Later.
Bye.